Okay. So, Jacob, thank you so very much for joining me this evening and I guess your morning. I
Yes.
really have, I've been following your work on LinkedIn quite a lot, and I really wanted to hear your story and your journey because I believe you've coached or guided over 3,500 participants. You've got 18 plus thousand hours worth of coaching. You have generated your clients millions of dollars throughout the pandemic. And more importantly, the reason why I reached out is because a lot of my job seekers are either A, leaving their position for a consulting role or wanting to start their own business. So I thought, who better not to come on and have a chat with? So thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here, and I'm sure that we're going to share some nuggets today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess I would love to hear, how did you start off your journey, and also how have you found to manage this pandemic and the recent situation with success for your clients?
Yeah, thanks for asking. My journey started, I was like everybody else, educated and trained culturally to go work for somebody else, and just something inside of me always was a little bit resistant to it, but I went with the flow. And in 1999, I finally made the plunge. I was in corporate life. On the surface, everything looked wonderful. The money was good, and but inside, I was shriveling up. I would look at the clock 12 hours before I'd have to go in and go, "Ugh, 12 hours from now, I'll be back there." So I made the decision to start a business, and I had some, at the time, coaching wasn't something that you even knew about, but I found a mentor and he really helped a lot. And so I took a 2-week vacation and never went back. And so, um, yeah, it was ready, fire, aim was the theme of that time, which is I got ready. I didn't have everything ready, but I knew that I had something that could help people, and it was a remodeling product that hadn't been out very long, but it was very popular. So we just went for it, and I put a bunch of advertising and faith and belief and everything into what I was doing, and it started working. And I remember at one point my wife was saying, "You have $30,000 in charge orders, and you don't have a charge account yet." I said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll get it. It'll happen fast." And it did. It took me about 2 or 3 hours, and they were more than happy to take my $30,000 in charges. Trust me. But
Imagine.
that started it, and it was a meteoric rise. I really had a good focus, and like I said, I had a mentor that really kept me in alignment when doubts and hesitations come in, because they do. um, Transitioning now in what I've been doing and helping others, anybody that's in a position right now that's looking to either become a consultant or start their own business. The one thing that I would say, if there's just one thing, I can always think of 10 others, but the main thing is be willing to go for it. Don't have everything ready. You never will. You have to have at least a plan. You have to know if your product or service will help others, and if they're interested, that group of people are interested in it. But beyond that, it's really just going for it and figuring out how to get in front of them and have conversations.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about leads and we talk about all these things, but it's really about, if you're having a lot of conversations, whether they pan out with a sale or not, that leads you to that sale. So it's about how active we are in that area of business, not getting all the administrative things in order.
This is so true. And I think depending on what school you've come from, um, is how you approach the situation, whether how you want to go out when you're ready. I find a lot of people who have got MBAs, for example, are very project management driven. They have to make sure everything is completed and they've done their minimum viable product before even doing a test launch, versus someone with an entrepreneurial spirit who maybe doesn't have the MBA or is quite a go-getter will completely take the approach different. I don't know if you have that same thought.
Yeah, I run across both in my coaching career. And the easier ones to work with are the ones that don't have to know everything. Um, because you have to, we hear this a lot, but how do you do it? How do you trust in the process? How do you believe it to achieve it? How do you fake it till you make it? And nobody really teaches or explains those things. And, when you come from a more project minded mindset, you have to have things in place. And what happens as an entrepreneur, if you wait too long, the trend shifts and you have to adjust again. So it really is about, getting a go for it attitude and figuring some of the things out along the way, but still having enough of a plan where you know the destination, at least that you believe in that moment you're headed to. And then taking that first step.
Mm.
We don't have to know the second step. We just have to know which first step we're taking and then take it.
I want to pause you there and ask you why. What makes you think that you don't need to know the second or third step if and focusing only on the first? What brings you to that idea?
Because I've experienced it where I've hesitated in having to know everything and getting it right, in quotes, before I started. And it cost me years of delay and years of hesitation. If I know all the steps, usually what happens midway through is we shift, and adjust. So all those steps that we thought we were going to take sometimes don't always come true. We have to adjust.
Mm.
The best analogy is like a plane or a spaceship. That the a plane is on track. I think they say 27% of the time, and the other, 73%, they're adjusting. And the space shuttle, when it was in action, 3% of the time it was on track, 97% it was adjusting back. And as entrepreneurs, we're like that. We're always, there's something that happens. We have to adjust to this, we have to respond. So I
Mm.
would say if you have it in place, great. But just trust in the process of the next step. It
Mm.
will reveal the right way you have to go.
I think it's so hard to change your mindset from this if you're coming from the corporate role or a corporate entity, completely different mindset, because usually the growth mindset or traction is driven from the top down, and you're sort of told what to do. You're even quite often given your own KPIs or at least a framework for your KPIs. And then of course, not a lot, most people do like to go above and beyond, but from an entrepreneurial side, you have to go above and beyond right from the get-go, I think, to be able to ensure that you've got consistent revenue, not relying on your employer.
Yeah, well, and also, you have nobody to go to. You're the end. So you have to make the decisions, you have to trust. It's a journey of self-discovery. It really is. And we can't, we a lot of times as new people, and I would encourage you not to do this as much, which is getting other people's opinions because we don't trust our own yet. We don't have the experience. And what happens is other people will impose unconsciously their limitation on you. Oh, watch out for this, Trisha. Jacob, be careful. I've heard about this. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh no, well, maybe that's true. And the best thing to do is keep your idea to yourself. Keep the enthusiasm inside and go take action and do it. And then tell people after you've done it, not before.
Yeah, I think this is some really good advice, because quite often this is I guess what leads to maybe in your services and coaching, but this is, you don't need someone to tell you the answer. It's like you will discuss solutions or a path that will direct you to leading yourself to the answer, and just thrashing about multiple ideas. I don't know, is this what you would discuss in your coaching sessions?
Yeah, well, coaching's a multitude of things depending on what the person shows up with. But one of the things that's really beneficial is that you have somebody who champions and supports you, who keeps you focused on what you said was really important to you, so that when these other distractions show up, because they do, you know, if you start looking for opportunities, they are all over the place. And after you choose one, the other ones become distractions at times. So we have to really remain really focused. And coaching helps somebody get a plan in place, a workable plan, keeps you accountable to the plan, let you realize the steps that you're taking, because a lot of times we just look at our to-do list, not what we've already done list. And that's as important as your to-do, because if you don't feel you're progressing, then we think that mistakes or failures or, are something that's bad. And as an entrepreneur, you'll realize that they become your best friends. Because when you are making a mistake, or you do make an error, or you failed at one thing, what it's really telling you is that a failure is great because it ends something that wasn't working anyway. But it also tells you that you were willing to take that step. You were willing to stretch a little bit. The same with mistakes. Mistakes they happen. We've all made hundreds of them. And we're still alive to talk about it, right? So they're not these debilitating things sometimes that we create up here.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to have an exit strategy, or at least a pivot shift, because and again, I will take your expert advice, but otherwise you can just keep going, chugging along, and then actually your growth is not exponential, or you're not maybe reaching some of your full potential. I don't know what your thoughts are to that.
Yeah, well, my first thought as an entrepreneur is burn the bridge behind you, right? Don't have a plan B. Make this one the thing that you are going to make happen. The one thing that's really important, though, Tricia, and you bring it up, which is a really great point, is make sure you understand the meaning behind what you're doing and why you're doing it. Um, for the money itself, it's not enough to get us up every single day, especially when we don't feel like doing it, or we don't feel the success is there yet. This is a lesson in delayed gratification, not instant gratification. Sometimes we get some, but most times we have to really earn it. It might be 100 calls, not 10, that we have to make to get that first person that says yes. But the other thing to understand is that it doesn't take many things that feel like success to turn us around when we're feeling down. I could not have any sales, and just one person saying yes to setting up a call with me is like the whole my whole attitude turns around. So, the most important thing is it's a solo journey, but you don't have to do it alone. I would encourage people, if you don't hire a coach, get a mentor that guides you, not tells you what to be careful about.
This is definitely true. I think it's really pivotal for your own self development, and beyond the business, even, with your
Yeah.
network, with your relationships, and how you see things from a holistic perspective. I would really like your thoughts, and again, maybe something your group coaching sessions or one-to-one discusses, but scaling your business. So, when would be the right time? Is it purely off your financial revenue, or what would be the right time to scale?
Yeah, with me, we would have a session to see what you're looking to achieve with your business and what your role is. Sometimes scaling starts right from the beginning, with affording somebody else. Like, some parts of scaling are just getting assistance to help, not necessarily growing your business to 100 people. But scaling is about success and freedom of time, freedom of stress, and that is a lot of the people that I work with that are higher level have achieved some success. They can afford life, they have a nice lifestyle, but they forgot how to take their time off, and time becomes more valuable than success if you don't do it the right way. So scaling is about it. Starting point is up to your plan, but the way that you do it is start in the beginning. Don't say, as soon as I get here, then I'll start doing this. If taking a month off on the beach is part of your plan, you don't start off by taking a month off because you're not making income, and it might be great, but then you go home to nothing. But you can go take an hour a week at a beach. Get the feeling of it so you don't forget the reasons why it's important for you to do the work. In Viktor Frankl's book, which was written, I think, in the 40s or 50s, be worthy of your struggle. And what that means to me is when you know what your meaning is, when we have to get up and we don't feel like it, we do because we know what the end outcome is. That I'm being worthy of this struggle, because it's really easy to check out if you don't have something bigger than us.
It's really good, and I love it how you hit the nail on the head with to what I was already thinking, that your mental health and emotional well-being is far more important to look after than what the balance sheet is. And if you don't take a break, or prevent burnout, then they'll go hand in hand and grow together. But I think quite often entrepreneurs forget about this. It's constantly, you got to put money on in the bank to be able to put food on the table, and either A, their business is not working for them, so the financials is not coming actively in, or they are working so hard that they forget about themselves. And I think it's a fine balance to have both.
Yeah, well, it just takes being consciously aware of it to start, and then being willing to follow a certain, at least a simple plan, following that. If you're busy, meaning you have a lot of customers, but the money isn't there, that's a pricing issue, usually, or the level of person that you're dealing with. It's a client choice issue. Those are easily fixed. Pricing is something that a lot of people don't focus on. But if you don't know what your expenses are and you don't know what exactly you're going to pay, and you're not covering the taxes and the fees and all the other things and adding profit at the end, you're not a profitable business. You don't go to the CEO and say, hey, I need $20 for copy paper today. They're like, get this person out of here. We there's a requisition, a purchase order. The company pays for the things. The CEO doesn't pull the money out of their pocket, and we shouldn't either. And you can do that right from the start. And I encourage, especially you out there that are starting a new business, make sure that everything that you're pricing out isn't just because Trisha's business, which is similar, charges this much, so I guess this is what we charge. Know what your pricing is. That's a good point. And then when you're scaling, how awesome is it if you can price out your uh, product or services that already affords that assistant,
Mm, mm, mm.
instead of waiting until you need it to charge for it?
No, it's definitely. And in fact, I have a business coach as well, and he said, one simple tool is looking at the currency. Is the currency that you're currently charging your clients in the best possible for my business? So, switching to, say, US dollar compared to the Australian, or vice
Hmm.
versa. So scaling doesn't have to be something huge that you have to think about, huge tactics. And it can be simple as changing your website into the most appropriate currency. And
Okay.
10 or $20 extra for every client ends up being quite a significant amount each month.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. And it's, where are your customers coming from? I'm global, so I charge from my economy. Um, and it translates. I have Australian clients, I have Canadian clients, and if I charge 100 in Canada, it's 130 or 40. In Australia, it's about 160 or 70. And it's not just what you charge, it's also, if you provide the value, they are going to figure out how to do it. I've had clients that have said, I can't afford it. And then you see them on Facebook on the Riviera the next week, right? So it was because of the value of it. It happens, right? You can relate to
Like,
that.
yeah, I live in Dubai. You wouldn't believe it. The glitz and glamour and brunches, and everyone's got the latest Gucci, and then they're haggling over like $10 or $20.
Right. And so, for me, it's, who am I focused on? And what is my conversation with them prior to me even knowing if I can work with them or they can work with me?
Mm,
It's really that value that we provide. I relate it this way. If you're an expert knee surgeon or brain surgeon, it's already a given up here mentally for everybody that you're going to pay more because they're experts. So we have to not only put ourselves out there, but we also have to show up and own our power, own the fact, like you were sharing, I have over 18,000 hours of billable that I could prove that I've coached others. I've coached over 3,500 people in groups. I've coached over 180 people in one-on-one. I spent over 500 or 250,000 on my own education. Uh, and I've done it over the last 13 years. And that all of that adds up. There has to be some value in there. But if I don't share that with people, they don't know it.
Mm,
Um, so those of you starting out, realize all the experience that you have prior to what you're doing and how all of that experience relates to what you chose to do. And be willing to identify that in public, not just to yourself,
mm, mm,
because your experience, your education, your commitment to what you're doing has value beyond what is the, currency value of it. There's a lot more experiential value that becomes the difference between you charging 20 bucks or 100
mm,
for the same thing.
mm.
Who would you rather go to, the knee surgeon or the general practitioner if your knee hurts?
Yeah, of course, exactly. And I think this raises two thoughts in my mind. Um, when starting a business, or maybe not starting, but you have been in it only a couple of years, would you prefer to become a generalist or do you recommend being a specialist?
Specialist. It seems up here that you limit who you can reach out to, but the benefits are you can find those other people easier. If I'm a knee surgeon, what am I looking for? I'm not looking for everybody. I'm looking for people with knee problems. It's easier to find them. So it's easier to find your ideal client, and your clients will pay more for expertise if you show up that way.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly. And I guess this leads me to my next point, maybe not question anymore, but it's all about how you display yourself through confidence, your pitches, consistency, and showing up on the right mediums and connecting with the right stakeholders that you want to be involved with. And I think with the digital space so saturated at the moment, we've got a lot of people working from home still. Um, the offices are reduced capacity, everything's quite digital, so it can be difficult to stand out from the crowd. So I think you have raised some really great points. I don't know, these types of things that you work with, marketing or personal branding strategies for your clients and their businesses.
yeah, it has to be part of the messaging, has to be part. The one thing to realize is that it doesn't matter what you do if there's one person in addition doing it or 10,000 others. The way that we deliver it is different. What we have to be willing to do is share what I shared previously, which is all the things that have got us to this point. How much have you invested? How much experience do you have? What is it that got you to this point that you could share with others? And the other thing, as you said, is consistency. In the digital space now, everybody's on it, which means we have to be on it. Social media used to be, maybe, maybe not. You have to be on the right one. So you have to identify who your client is, where do they hang out, and what is the biggest problem that they experience that they're looking to be helped with. If you talk that language, that starts separating you from everybody else. They don't care about us. If you were looking to work with me, Trisha, and I said, hey, to be successful, you have to go out by a tree at noon to 1 o'clock every day and lay next to it, and you will be successful. You would have people laying next to a tree. They don't care if it's about coaching yet. What, right? But the thing that becomes the difference is after they have a conversation with you. So the whole thing that we're leading to is getting a conversation. Being digital is about being seen and noticed enough. Consistency is what you said. That's number one. You could have the worst message in the world and you will get noticed if you do it consistently. You
So
could have a sandwich board and be on the busiest boulevard and it says, I'm a coach, work with me, I charge $300. And throughout a year, I'd probably get 3 or 4 people that would either out of sympathy, right? He's out there every day, I'm going to help him. Or because they go, this guy's committed, he's out there, let me see what he's about. And you would get business. So
Mm,
consistency is key. You have to figure out where your people hang out, and you have to talk their language, not what you do, but what they experience and what you help with.
mm.
If you do that, you will rise above everybody else with your message if you use your voice.
This is really, really great content and great advice, I should say. I want to maybe ask a couple of more questions for you. So, obviously, when you are an entrepreneur or you are maybe in a transitional phase, so for example, maybe you've been made redundant from your current job but want to start up something or continue where you left off back in your early 20s, or you've got to learn so much. You've got marketing, you've got to learn your P&L, as you were just stating, strategy, um, everything, the product itself. There's so much to do, and then of course you've most of us have got the family life as well.
Mhm.
So where do you recommend the starting point or touching base again?
Yeah, if you're still in your current situation for income, don't leave it until you're prepared. That's my first suggestion. If you're working at your job or career and you're looking to transition out slowly. Um, there's a tipping point that happens, and it becomes stressful for a short period of time, which is I'm getting so busy in my new business and I still have to function at my day job, and family life. So one of the things that I say is, who creates this time? Who creates all the things that we do? We
You-
do.
Yeah.
Right? We choose them. So realize that if you get into those situations, you can adjust them. Make sure that you choose a time that you shut your business down for the night. Make sure that it's enough time where you can spend time with your children or spend time with your wife, whatever it is that you choose. But you get to choose it.
Mm,
And you don't have to go every single night. It's not how hard we work. It's what we do with the time that we have. Just like raising a family and a relationship. It's not how much time I spent with my significant other. It's what we did in the time that we had that makes the most impact in the end. So take that to heart, because that applies everywhere. It's the same person that's having the relationship that's running the business. It's just a different situation.
mm, mm,
So manage your time properly. Um, be wise about when you're making that transition, and make sure that you have an action plan that's going to get you to a result. So getting all the administrative tools and everything organized and the nice pretty website and all that, that looks good and it feels good for about 2 minutes. And then we feel like nothing's happening. I've spent all this time and all this money and nothing happens. So focus on the best result, which is having conversations that lead to a referral, a collaboration, or a client. And
absolutely.
if you do that, you will find success if you do it enough.
Absolutely. I guess this will probably be my last point for this evening for you. Um, do you find a difference between coaching between men and women and their own maybe confidence or fears to get going?
Yes, in my experience, when I first started out, I thought, well, I'm going to attract people that are like me, which were male, 40 to 60 range, and it totally blew. The universe said, nah. 70% of my clientele were female entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
I didn't choose it, they chose me. But I wasn't saying, "No, it's gotta be a male." So be open. You can, if you know for sure, go for it, but be open to what shows up as well.
Mm, mm,
There are differences for sure.
mm,
Is men have, in my experience, and I'm only talking about my experience, have less of a tendency to reveal their flaws and mistakes, because we've been trained that we had to be these, we couldn't show it because we would get, you know, picked on or whatever it is, the ego thing. Females have more of an openness to being open to it right from the start. Once men open up, they're similar. But for me, with females, and here's a funny thing, because I worked with John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, for 7 years. Women have a loft apartment. You have 80% more white matter, which is connective tissue in the brain, than men. So men have this hallway with all these locked doors and all these emotional compartments, feeling, reasoning, emotion, all these things. And you guys have a loft apartment. So you're able to respond and react instantly. So if you have a partner and you've ever been in an argument and you go, "How do you feel?" All of a sudden the male will go, because they're running down the hallway from like argument, like emotion, down to like feeling. And then they go to reasoning to say, how can I say this so I don't get in more trouble? And by the time we come back, you go, see, you can't even tell me how you feel.
I
So
think you've been in this situation too much.
so we just have to remember we do have differences, but we are much more similar than we are different. We just have to shed the part that has to be right, that feels like a mistake is wrong. That's all ego, and we all have it. I think we're just trained more as men from the old school perspective that it was more important, and it is quite frankly a lot of BS, just to be honest.
No, yeah, it's fair enough. I do agree, and I work with a lot of job seekers and people who are wanting to transition in this type of thing, but not really sure. And exactly what you've done. The analogy is the same this part of the world. So I think it's homogenous situation. So Jacob, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. In closing, what piece of advice would you give for those people either wanting a coach, how would you look for one, and maybe some tips and tricks to launch or to continue their successful business?
Yeah, so I'd say if you're looking for a coach, find somebody who will spend time with you up front. I've been at this for a long time and I haven't found a better way to know whether I can connect with this person, what they really desire, and can I really help? And can we get along enough? Because it's a really intimate relationship in regards to, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm not here to have you like me. I'm here to help you be successful. And we have to understand and be able to dance so that none of it's taken on an emotional level. So spend some time with someone who you believe can get you there, but isn't there just to be your friend. And if they're not willing to do it for free up front to find that out, that tells you where their focus is at. That's just my opinion. Those that are looking to transition right now, I would say make sure you know what problem that you're going to solve and who you're going to solve it for. Those are the two most important things that will take people out before they even get ready. And then find some help to get the initial introductions going. People stop and hesitate right at the introduction because they don't know what to say or how to say it. So find some help getting that done and then be willing to go for it and make a bunch of mistakes. We all do it. Get help as soon as you possibly can and go for it. Like, don't hesitate. There are entrepreneurs created every single day in every part of the world. You can do it. Just go for it.
I love it. I love it. Jacob, thank you so much for the call this evening. I really appreciate it. All the best with your own business adventure. And how can people reach you if they would like to take your assistance and services?
Yeah, so the two easiest ways, one, send me an email. It's my name, Jacob Roig, JACOBROIG at gmail.com.
I'll put it down.
That's yeah, that's my general one. Or find me on LinkedIn. I'm on it 5 to 6 days a week. That's my social media. That's where I find my ideal clients. And you can see also how I post and comment. And I would recommend that you look at it and model it because I spend a lot of money on copywriting coaching.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jacob. It's been a pleasure chatting.